Hopefully it's going to work this time. Hey, Jennifer. Hey, Brandon. Computer head. But we're on. Okay, now we can do it. Hi, everybody. I'm Brand. I'm the lead consultant at Little Pro Education Group, where we help you help your child. And our premise around here is to let people know, families, educators, students, everybody, community supporters know what's really going on within the schools. Schools are extremely dangerous. It's very true. They are the key to education. But that key is either to open up the door to opportunities or to lock you up, right? So got to be very careful at believing in the hype and not really investing and preparing your kids to circumvent those potholes, right? So tonight on Woke Wednesday, we're going to go to my boy, Paulo Freire, who is a Brazilian, brilliant philosopher and educator. He has touched so many educators' lives. I'm going to tell you how potent this book is, okay? So, hey, Terrence, welcome. So, they use this book in educational institutions. Hey, Cheryl, welcome. In educational institutions, but they don't use it in the schools in which we go. So, they use it to train teachers, but teachers are not supposed to implement it. And I'm going to give you a case scenario. I'm minding my business. It's my boy's birthday because they're 6 days apart. So we're celebrating their birthday. And hey, Nina, welcome. We're celebrating their birthday at Cheesecake Factory in Stamford, Connecticut, right? So we're not even from that area. We're just, down there enjoying the day. This is back in May. And so I'm doing a live that night, right? And so I'm using this book. And so the waiter comes over. He said, oh, my goodness. I haven't seen that book in years. I read it in college. My sister read it. And as a matter of fact, my sister became a teacher for a high-performing charter school. And her colleagues were really into changing the lives of inner city youth, and they wanted to implement the strategies within this book and make sure that they were doing these strategies in order to make effective change. Child, let me tell you what this high-performing charter school did to these young teachers. Hey, Kevin, welcome. They either fired them, the teachers either quit, and then, hey, Katharina, and then, hey, Barn, and then they suppressed the other people who were afraid of losing their job, losing their income, right? And so that questions, right? Because we as parents, hey, Natasha, you're welcome. We as parents, and we're all in this together, although I'm an educator and this is my life's work and this is my passion, this is my life's purpose. I was still a student, right? So I've experienced all of this. And I'm a parent. Hey, Duncan. And I've been a parent. So I've experienced the ends of the parent part too, right? And so when we believe the hype about these magnet schools and charter schools and, private schools and independent schools without really understanding and knowing education, sometimes we're led astray, where we're like sheep and we're depending on the information that's out here because, we're parents, we're busy, we're consumed. And a lot of the information that we receive is marketing. Hey, Renee, welcome. It is marketing, right? So if you had a company, you're going to highlight all of, excuse me, I had some ginger ale. You're going to highlight all your great points, all the points that you're striving towards, and so do these schools. Hey, Tamara, welcome. And so do these schools. So then when we hear the marketing for these schools, of course we want our kids in those schools. But once you take a closer look, you're going to see how, hey, Joy, welcome. I should upload that picture I have. So anyway, we got to take a closer look, and that's what I'm doing this work for, to inform people how to take a closer look. So we're going to dive into a little bit of this, and then we're going to go to the next part on Schooling Sundays. Hey, Tommy, and just to let you know, our big announcement is still forthcoming, and I'm so excited for that. And our timetables, hi, Delwood, our timetables may be off because I have some travel coming up, but we will still be on it, and I'll keep you informed. All right, so we're going to dive into Paulo Freire, okay? And I've said this in the past, and I'm going to make some correlations to some past lives that I did. Hey, Henry. Okay, the oppressed have internalized the image of the oppressor and adopted his guidelines, are fearful of freedom. Freedom will require them to eject this image and replace it with autonomy and responsibility. Freedom ooh, that's better. Freedom is acquired by conquest, not by gift. Okay, so. Yeah, perfect song. I want to be starting something. Gotta break that down. I gotta be starting something, okay? So, freedom is not a gift. No one gives you freedom. Abraham Lincoln cannot give you freedom, and he did not give people freedom, right? Civil rights movement did not acquire freedom because it was still given, no matter how much work, and it was an arduous process, and they did a dynamo job, but the ultimate outcome was a gift. It was not a conquest. It was not taken, right? And so when you choose your child's school, the background of these schools that started in the South with the Freedmen's Bureau after slavery was a gift. It was philanthropists that came from the North that came to the South to make sure that Blacks were educated. It was a gift. And Blacks and poor whites did band together, and then they did fight for some social reform, but reform is still a part of the previous system. So it's not a conquest. You're not taking it, right? So that's one of the first premises you have to know. So when you're choosing these schools, right, there are options out there. But most of these options are rooted in the same history within this country. So a lot of them are only remixes. And so as parents, as aunties, as godparents, as community activists, you have to know that parents and students are settling for the lesser evil. That's what it is, right? Now I'm talking all this junk, but my kids graduated from a magnet school, went to magnet schools, went to traditional public schools. I went to a private school as well as public schools. And my son graduated from a charter school. So I'm not saying this to bash anyone's ideology, what they think about particular schools. I'm not bashing that, just giving you heads up. Because when S hits the fan, you have to be knowledgeable and prepared. And when S hits the fan, you can't get prepared in that moment. You're already fighting a losing battle. Case in point, my son's charter school had a student walkout. It really wasn't a walkout because they never went into school, right? And so as much as these charter schools saying that they are for the inner city, they tote around their badge of honor that they service Black and brown communities, but historically they have hired white teachers and administrators and staff members, right? And then the Black and Latinos served in lower positions. And that is so stereotypical. Hey, Antoine, that is so stereotypical and a reiteration of inner city strife. So how can you be coming into our neighborhoods saying that you're trying to help when you're reinstituting the very thing that we need to be getting away from. Discrimination in hiring practices. Okay? And I'm not looking at this from an outside perspective. I do have some inside perspective on it, right? And so they had this phenomenal secretary. And I know she was phenomenal because as a person who works and works a lot, I didn't have time to always go into my son's school, right? But when I did go, she knew my child's name. Before I even knew her name, she knew who I was connected to. Hey, Catherine, welcome. She knew who I was connected to. She knew, when he saw him, oh yeah, he just left and such and such. Oh, he just got on the bus. Oh no, he's waiting. I think I saw him in the back, right? She knew these kids and these kids knew her. So they had fired her, right? The kids went sick. Not only, hey Kashim, not only do they not have enough professionals that look like them that they can really relate to and that the professionals can relate to them, on a real, level, that the person that they did connect with, who worked in the front office, who was not in a position of power, but was in a position to service these students and families and did a good job at it. From our perspective, they got rid of her. They weren't having it. That was the last straw. These kids went, boop, 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 boop. They went in. And so, thanks for the likes. Appreciate it. Likes and shares are welcome. And so they held a student sit-in. And instead of going in and going to class, and this is a real highfalutin charter school that's in the newspapers and has a really great reputation, these kids blew their spot up. Parents were out there doing their job, serving the kids waters, juice, food. Yeah, we're going to feed you while you're doing your sit-in, babies. So shout out to those parents. Awesome job, right? And so many of these charter schools, think that they are a gift. Hey, Malik, a lot of these charter schools think that they are a gift to the Black community. They are a gift to these students. They are a gift to these families. When you are working mutually, it ain't no gift. It's symbiotic. It's working together, right? Because as a teacher, I know I do my thing. I know that, right? But those kids give to me. Those families give to me. All the successes that we've had, it wasn't me just alone. You have to have, just because I'm the leader, there was also leaders coming up in the ranks and the students using their natural skills. I didn't do all that. I had, in every class, I had a treasurer keeping track of the funding. In every class, I had a host that will welcome people when we had events. They always served. Hey, Randy, welcome. Hey, Kevin, welcome. Hey, Warren, welcome. They always use their talents. Parents cook food for our events. Parents were always supportive, right? But these are the very people that other people say can't do it or can only do it underneath the guidance of a white savior, right? And so that goes back into what Paulo Freire is saying. We have internalized the master's perception so deeply and ingrained that sometimes we don't even know that we're reiterating their teachings, and their teachings actually hold us down, right? So when he says that we have to acquire our freedom by conquest, we have to stop thinking of these schools as the answer. Because like I said, yes, schools, I shouldn't say schools. Yes, education is the key. But in these historical schools that have their historical basis, no matter when they open, in the United States, several of us get the key to jail. Hey, Rufus, welcome. we receive our key to prison. There is a school to prison pipeline, and it's tracked in 3rd grade, 6th grade, and 9th grade. And the reason why it's tracked in those grades is because 3rd grade is the first year in which, hey Cedric, welcome, in which the curriculum gets much higher. So now you're weeding out, by the survival of the fittest, the best students, right? And so now you're starting to track the lower students. And what we call the lower students are the kids who are below reading level, the kids who are below in terms of their math scoring, the kids with attendance problems, and the kids with behavioral problems, right? In 3rd grade, you can track who's going to drop out of school. Who drops out of school is correlated with who goes to jail. There's a direct numeric statistical correlation for Black and brown kids. So it's serious. So even if your kid is fine, hey Alvin, welcome. So even if your kid is fine, they are seeing this, which makes it very unhealthy for them, right? I don't care what race, what ethnic makeup, what national background your child is, to see this type, high less of discrimination that is built into the system is not okay to be on the negative end of it, but it's also not okay to witness it. It kills the spirit. It douses the spirit, right? All right, so Paulo also says, it must be pursued, education, freedom, constantly and responsibly. Freedom is not an ideal located outside of a man, nor is it an idea which becomes a myth. So we're not 5%ers, no disrespect to 5%ers, but in terms of hoteps who talk a lot, but you don't see them building communities in which what they are teaching is actually living and breathing. So this is what Paulo is saying. Paulo is saying, you can't just speak these ideas. These ideas have to live. It is rather the indispensable condition for the quest of human completion. Hey, Quentin, welcome. Yes, Jackie, I'll tag you. Thank you. You get a raffle ticket for that. Raffle ticket for all shares, likes, questions, comments. And don't mind, like, I'm on topic, but you can also go off topic. And if you have a personal question about somebody that you know, or a general question, you can be sure to ask it. So, now, one of the things that I did that made me so popular and makes my teaching healing work is that I go through a whole process of decolonizing the mind, right? And so I attach with everything that I do real world connections, how the student is going to benefit from this content and or skill set. I make the setting of their work real world, right? So it's not them coming to my class doing my work. It's them coming to our classroom, getting prepared for the real world. And guess who's vested? Every single last one of them. And so when they go off and they are not doing well, because we all struggle with, being on task or motivated, and it's more than one person, or it's a strong person within the classroom who acts this way, I stop everything, call everything, break down the behavior, break down the significance in terms of society and what are the implications, right? I get down and dirty and real with the information so they can understand what they're doing. So not only do I use the decolonization process in terms of curriculum building, I also do it within the classroom in real time when problems arise, right? This helps them to understand that they're not a victim, that they're not inferior, that they're not less than, that if they're individually a great student, that the people next to them are not inferior, are not less than, right? Hey, Debbie, welcome. And so that's really important. And this is all based upon Paolo Freire, right? This was my bread and butter in college. I have some other ones, and you've seen them, and there's another one that I haven't introduced you to, but later on I will, right? To surmount the situation of oppression, people must first critically recognize its causes so that through transformation action, they can create a new situation, one which makes possible the pursuit of fuller humanity. So basically he's saying that oppression, holding people down, is dehumanization. You're taking away the humanization from people. And once you do that, people will automatically fall into line. So people have to actively fight against that. And as the term I use, decolonize their mind on a constant basis, right? And, you know, I wasn't born this way, right? But I had to have influences. And so in high school, I wasn't there, definitely not. Is somebody at the door? I just heard a loud thump. The dog is at attention, and I see like a shadow at the door. Okay. Hey, Greg. Hey, Letitia. Welcome. Okay. So that process of decolonization is extremely important. And I guarantee your schools are not doing this. There could be individual teachers doing this, right? That's not enough. It's not enough that I'm doing this. It's not enough that Mr. Jones down the hallway is doing this. I ain't going to church. Because if somebody can't knock the right way, I'm allergic to scary movies, and that's some scary movie stuff. So it's not enough that a handful of teachers are doing it. The knock was in the song. Beat It has a knock. There's a shadow underneath the door that I never noticed before. Okay. So anyway, I hope you're right, Letitia. And I kind of hope you're wrong too, because then that's embarrassing if it was a knock in the song. So as I was saying, that process I don't hear no knock, Letitia. I don't hear no knock on the song. Hey, Sharia. All right, so that process of dehumanization is really important. I'm gonna play it back. That's gonna be funny. So that is extremely important. You have to have an entire school system that is willing to invest in all children. And it's not happening. And for people who just came in, I gave a scenario of when I was out to dinner, minding my business, doing a live. I was using this text as well as another one. And the waiter, and he was a white guy, I didn't mention that earlier. Hey, Melody. I'm talking about it, snitch. I already gave some examples. I already snitched on some schools. Hey, Veronica. So you can't wait, girl. So you're going to have to go back and watch the replay. And so he was a white male. He was like, I haven't seen that book in years. I read it in college. My sister used it in college. And her and some colleagues at this high-performing charter school wanted to use the book and really implement this within the curricula and make effective change for kids. The school was dead set against it. For the teachers who were adamant with using it, they fired those teachers. Other teachers were like, oh no, you're really not here for these kids. They ended up quitting. And then the teachers who were there, were suppressed because they didn't want to lose their job. Right? The ones who stayed, whether they stayed for a short amount of time until the end of the school year, hey Jerome, or whether they stayed for a few years, whatever the case may be, they were suppressed. And so they learned that they cannot actually make effective change by using this international text. This is written in English, but it's translated. This is written in Portuguese, right? And this is what I'm saying, like this totally validates all of my previous lives, because I was saying, even when I used the miseducation of the Negro, Carter G. Woodson traveled around the world and got data and did compare them. And I'm about to do that too. I can't wait. So, and you have to pull data from other systems. And so because of colonization is worldwide, where Europeans went to all of the continents and essentially, except for Antarctica, and essentially dehumanized and changed the educational structures of all these societies. So you can find elements of this throughout the world, right? But we're really focusing on inner city USA and traditional inner city residents who have migrated to the outskirts of the inner city for a better opportunity, and then find that those opportunities are not there. It's just a whole nother bag of mess. Jerome, other communities don't rely on government school systems, so why should we as people of color? Hey, Nancy, great question, Jerome. It depends on what you mean by other communities don't rely on government schools. It depends on who you're talking about. Typically, you got to have money. Schools cost money, right? So even in this country, no one depended on the government. There were no government schools. Schools were for the upper class, right? And so after the Civil War, it was actually advocated by Blacks and for whites for social reform that got the government to start public schools. And philanthropists came from the North and came to the South to start educating the Blacks. So that was a gift, right? And so that's how the American public school education was started, right? Because otherwise it was for the more affluent, the people who could afford it. So now many people depend on public school. Even affluent people send their kids to public schools if they're in an affluent community, right? But they know how to navigate the system. They understand the system. For affluent people, special ed is a way to get free tutoring, baby, to up your SAT scores, to up your chances of getting into a great college. But when we are designated SPED, it's a negative connotation because it's attached to our abilities, right? And not us navigating the system, right? So it has a different context. So it's like we as a community has to understand education and understand the implications of what's going on in order to navigate. If you don't know that, how can you start a successful school? Because most people have been educated within that system. And most people would go ahead and reiterate what they've seen done in that system. So you have to decolonize first in order to move forward. Okay, the Chinese in particular, we do have money in the churches. Every Sunday, millions of dollars are taken from the community. Well, I mean, those are strong words. Taken from the community when people are giving willingly, right? And so there are some churches who have schools attached to them that support schools. But any type of institution, whether it's a nonprofit or whether it's a for-profit, knows where their monies need to go. So unless you're an official in a specific church, in a specific organization, wherever the case may be, you can look at it from an outsider's perspective and say what should be, but you don't see the numbers, right? For an individual church, you don't see what their mortgage is. You don't see what their utility bills are. You don't see what scholarships they give out, right? We don't see the total picture. And so churches are not educational institutions. So unless you're a part of unless you're a part of a church and you ask your church to start an educational institution, right? And how many parents are going to give specifically to an educational institution when there's free educational institutions? And again, well, you came in late, but as we said at the very beginning, that people who are oppressed, as well as the oppressors, believe in the education that they've been given. They believe in the misconceptions. So until people are free of those misconceptions, that is only when they're going to take back their humanity, therefore take back their schools, right? And that's what this whole process is about. Informing people, putting parents up on game, putting community up on game so they can understand. Even if they have their child in a traditional school, charter school, magnet school, private school, independent school, home school, as long as they know, you know what I mean, they're moving forward to make effective change. Right. So, I mean, you have to be a part of that change, right? So you have to be within that institution that you're criticizing to see if you can make effective change. Start your own organization. I'm well, Nat. How are you? Yeah, so and it's hard work, because let me tell you, Marcus Garvey, and he is not reported as, but Marcus Garvey had more followers in the United States than Malcolm X, Martin Luther King combined. Okay? Marcus Garvey was that guy. Marcus Garvey came to the United States via Jamaica. Marcus Garvey understood the colonial process, the dehumanization process that Paulo Freire is talking about. And he tried to talk to his Jamaican brethren about it. They thought he was absolutely crazy, because you see dark people, people of color in Jamaica doing really well. But the top system is still British European based. They couldn't see that because they finagled some successful blacks in it, right? So then Marcus Garvey traveled the Caribbean, Central South, what we call Central and South Americas, and he tried to do the same thing. He got the same response. Because you have people of color in various positions of society, they didn't see how the oppressed groups were the darkest ones on the bottom, right? There was still a race, ethnic, color-based hierarchy that was in place, right? So the only place where he can get a following and people understand was the United States, because the discrimination was just so blatant because of segregation, right? Jim Crow. And in his efforts, right, he ends up getting deported, right? He ends up getting jail time and deported. So it's not easy work trying to convince people. The conversations that I have with parents, unbelievable, because the parents were the students in the same classroom. Just because you're older does not mean that you're decolonized or that you can see everything that's going on, right? So how can an institution start something and then they have to go against the very people that they're helping that don't understand, right? So there's a lot of catch-22s that go along with this work, right? I had a parent who, going against the grain. Thank you. I think it's more than the grain. I think you're really hitting a brick wall at some points. I had a parent who was a cafeteria worker at another school. And she tried to use that as leverage to give advice on how, students should be allowed to do X, Y, and Z. Because her daughter was constantly in trouble in school. And so we're in this team meeting, and they're looking at her like she's bonkers, right? And I feel bad for her because she's trying to make an effort, but she's a part of a school, and so she's looking at what she knows, but what she knows she doesn't realize is vested in colonialism, right? So there has to be a freeing of the mind. There has to be a decolonization of the mind in order for us to really grab and take our education, right? And that's going to take all of us. And so that mentality that we have to wait on an organization is outdated, right? Because historically, if you look at Black churches, as well as organizations, with the resources and power that the U.S. government has had and has, if you are a leader in an organization and your child, your mother, somebody is in trouble, right? Even whether it's real trouble that they got themselves into or whether it's something that they were set up for, they're going to use that as leverage to come to you to stop doing your work, take it down some notches, right? And so we have to understand that system in order to really make change. And know that there's forces that are out there that's going to try to stop. It's just not a matter of doing it because people have done it in the past, right? People have made gains in the past, but not enough, right? So now this generation has to pick up the pieces and bring it forward. Hey, Simona. Yes, now out of the box thinking. Because within the box, child, we are in prison. And we are training our kids to be sent to prison, right? By having them go to these schools because of the school to prison pipeline. We are literally sending our kids to go to jail. And so it has to change. So, hey, Stephanie. So, Sunday, we're going to talk about one of the ways in which schools do this, right? But for now, we're going to focus on some problem solving, right? Because I've already said since the beginning of the live, and I've said in other lives, we're all in this together. We were all students getting the same miseducation, no matter what type of school you went to, private school, traditional public school, charter school, magnet school, independent school, does not matter, right? And we become adults, we get more information, and we're starting to see, hey Ken, we're starting to see in our children's work and their books, sorry, I got a cough, in their books, how things are off. We're seeing things. I don't know why that's off, okay. And so we're becoming more abreast. This is a very important time in history. There's a collective consciousness that's going on, not only in the United States, but across the world. I've seen it. When did the Trayvon Martin situation happen? Like 2000 what? Because the amount of Black and brown people who were anti-Trayvon, just because of his image, just because he was a Black male in a hoodie.
There are things I've seen.
Now when things come out, because so many things have come out with technology and with social media and with people really taking the lead, there is a collective consciousness that's moving forward. People in other countries are seeing the atrocities, the lynchings, that's what I'm going to call them, the lynchings that are still happening here in the United States. And so now is the time to push forward and take this collective consciousness and really help our kids become free. More free than we've ever been, more free than our parents have been, right? And with that freedom comes responsibility. So, in terms of problem solving, baby, segue into our big announcement. Our big announcement is coming. This is not just hype. We wanted to do the announcement on Sunday, but after we did the ad, we saw that more needed to be added. So different parts. So when people wanted more information, they can go here. So we have someone working on the next part. And they actually, I thought they would have it to me by now, but they're a little bit slow. Okay. So you saw I had, if you're on my Facebook page, you saw where I had that gift, where it's this guy and he's playing basketball and he's going sick and he kicks it, instead of going to the basket and being selfish, he kicks it out to the power forward. The power forward pulls up all net, not even in the rim, outside the net. Hey, Crystal. Okay. And the caption was, this is what happens when your team lets you down, so, something like that, something to that effect. We have to show them how to be responsible for their actions so they can make better decisions. Right. And that's a part of the educational process. You do that all the time, all day, and it works. They do it. When you don't penalize them for not knowing, right? You take everybody from where they're at and you bring them up, baby, it is powerful. And when these kids see that they can do it academically and behaviorally, because you have to have the behaviors together in order to get the academics together. Doesn't matter how smart you are. If you're cutting up, you're not living up to your potential. If the person next to you is cutting up, you're not living up to your potential, right? And schools have to allow time to cut up. I mean, school should be fun. This is learning. You have to build life learners. They want to learn. They want to do well, right? And I've done this in the inner city, tough inner cities, struggling economic inner cities, kids who have not done well before, doing exceptionally well, parents finally elated. So it can't be, naming 5 teachers in the school, right? It has to be an entire system that's doing this to make effective change, right? Because if your kid gets into one school and there's no more room, even if they have sibling preference, and your other kid is in another school, is it right that your kid is getting a better education? Right? Or if your kid has this dynamo teacher and then your other kid gets to this grade and they don't get that teacher, right? It's not fair. It's happening within families, let alone entire communities. So we have to problem solve where there's more effective change. Yes, and when you explain it to them, they're there. They do so. Yes, they do so much better. I mean, they walk differently. They talk differently. They problem solve differently. I mean, I just sound like Sylvester the cat when I did that. Sorry. Unwelcome. And sometimes it's microaggressions, sometimes it's small things, but parents know, right? So as a parent, I got enough to deal with providing for my family, keeping my family secure and safe, and then go play games in people's schools. With desegregation, Black educators lost their jobs, right? And so now you're having Black and brown children being educated by the majority of white teachers, and a lot of these white teachers, come from the suburbs, and teach in their schools because they've already, started in that school system. They're already vested in making the money. And so they come in and they basically rape the cities because they come in, take the city's resources, and then go spend their monies out in outside communities. And so they're really not vested in these communities. And so the need to connect is not there. So even if a parent is gung-ho and they go in and they start off really well because of these microaggressions, because of these nuances that are in school, just to make it for a safe, effective environment for parents to participate. So parents care about their kids. Parents care about their kids' education. Kids want to be a part of it. But why do we have to deal with the BS? Hey! Absolutely, I've said the same thing for so long. Mona, I already know. Mona, I already know you do. No, like we're here, Mona. So it's really difficult. So yes, there is, but schools also have to be welcoming. So segueing back into our big announcement, that is a part of our big announcement. I guarantee you, our next division is not only student-centered, it's family-centered. And I can't wait to drop it. Hey, Bernard, welcome. I cannot wait to drop it, right? Because most of the work that I do at Little Poor Education Groups is going into schools and supporting, hey, Cephas, welcome, and supporting students and families who are having problems within the school, and those problems are, varied. It could be straight academic or it could be behavioral. Most of the times there's a behavioral component. And in that work, it's important work, but it's still remixing, right? I'm still remixing the foundations that are negative, that are anti-us. And what I mean by anti-us is that the histories within American education has been the antithesis of what's good for us. It is an oppressive educational system that prepares us for being less of ourselves, right? And so, and that's through the curriculum, that's through the social agenda, that's through every single fiber of the school. I don't care how cool your teacher is, including myself. When I'm a teacher working for a school that is centered in colonialism, I'm just remixing, right? And I did a pretty good job at uncovering some things within the classes in which I taught. It's still not enough, right? I still have to go to PPTs. I still have to follow the rules, as closely as possible, right? So you're really only a remix, and that's why I'm not in the classroom now, because it's not okay within my soul. It's not okay for my mental sanity to do remixes. It's my calling to provide solutions. And so that's what our announcement is going to be, a solution. And so it's really going to help parents have another choice and have total control. I'm going to say 99.999% control. When it comes to education, the parents are the father. Yes, they will be. They'll be totally responsible for the great things that their kids are doing with support. So I just cannot wait for that. So now I'm shooting for Wednesday. I'm shooting for it to happen on Wednesday. Crossing fingers. Okay, so that's it for me tonight. We have been on for 55 minutes. Thank you for the hearts. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the comments. I may or may not have put it in the description box. But when you ask questions, when you make pertaining to education, when you make on-topic comments for questions, you get a free entry into a $100 Visa raffle. So good luck with that. Even if I don't put it, it's still on until we have the raffle. And then as we get more support and we're nearer to the raffle, we'll make that announcement when the raffle is, drawing to a close, and we'll have some more competitions. And then we'll have the raffle actually on live. So yeah. And I got my afro on today. Yes, I did. All right. So everybody, it's been real. Thank you so much. Appreciate the likes, the comments, the shares. Also the laughs, because that Tekashi pic of me is hilarious. I got that from Jill Overstreet. I could kiss her feet for that one. That one was hilarious. So anyways, it's been great, everybody. Bye, YouTube.